So this is the box of PC stuff I got recently. Different stuff in it. Asus K8V. This is a VIA K800 mainboard. Socket 754, an AMD board. A little bit more modern. Not interested at the moment. Some power supplies, a more modern Enermax power supply with ATX connectors only, and some older AT power supplies, ATNG, whatever this is. Another power supply, bunch of software, certificate of authority. And a lot of DVD drives, some cables, always useful. Oh, especially the 80-pin Ultra DMA cables. A really nice ice cream keyboard. This is the well-known Cherry keyboard, an MY3000. Really solid, heavy. No Windows keys. This is a German edition. I'm fine with it, multilingual. Another Cherry keyboard. RS6000. This is a more modern keyboard, already with Windows keys, also a German edition. But what's more interesting is this. A bunch of SD RAM. We will need these. These are only 64 and even a 32 megabyte stick. We will use them anyway. We got here a sound card. It looks something like a Sound Blaster Pro, but it isn't. There is a crystal chip on it, CS4231, CompuMedia. Whatever this is, we will find out. Serial number on the back. A PCI S3 card. These provide the very best DOS compatibility, like in every old mainboard, PCI mainboard. This provides a really good compatibility with DOS. Spare software AG. With the driver, diskettes, etc. I guess. I don't know, these are for the sound card. Ah, yeah, it's a it's a Trump sound card. Yep, a Trump sound card. And we got all these to test. Video cards, sound cards. Yeah, classic Sound Blaster PCI 128. And even my Asus cards that I recently got. I think they are a bit too modern to test in the board we are going to test now. What also was provided was this board. If you look at this, you should directly know that this is a Super Socket 7 board. Probably. It says Socket 7, AGP Pro, PC100 chipset, ISA slots, PCI slots, an AGP slot. ATX power connector and an AT power connector. It's a bit bent. And the usual connectors on board. There are no soldered on 72 pin RAM slots, but the SD RAM slots. That's why we need the 64 megabyte RAM sticks to test this one out. There is no PS2 connector directly on the board, only an AT, but we will use a PS2 connector with an adapter. So let's see what's in the socket. So let's remove the cooler. Yeah, it's one of those coolers with a cooling pad. And we see that's an AMD K6. Should be careful. Well, I can see like that. It's in K62, 300 megahertz, 2.2 volts. That's nice. Should be faster than the Pentium 233 MMX. We will see. Come on. I thought this cooler was made for this. Always take care that this notch comes out of the clip. On the other side too, of course, and that the cooler sits on the CPU and not somewhere on the socket. The FSB should be either 66 or 100. You have to look up on sites like CPU World. If you don't know the CPU, what FSB is it running on and what's according multiplier. That's important to know if you want to set the FSB on the board later and the multiplicator. A quick look up on CPU World tells us that the K62-300 AFR, that's what it is, the CPU, is a 300 MHz, like we said, CPU, and it runs either on 66 or 100 MHz front side bus, which means that it can run on a socket 7 at 66 MHz, because socket 7 only supports 66 MHz, or on a super socket 7 at 100 MHz. This is a super socket 7 board, because we have the PC100 chipset, and here in the corner we can set the FSB. You can hardly see it on the camera, but all the jumpers to the left, 1-2 position, means that the CPU is running at 100 MHz front side bus. The SD RAM will run at 100 MHz, and the PCI runs at 33 MHz like intended. That's the default. So we got 100 MHz FSB, so we need a multiplier of 3. We got the other settings here. On top of the CPU, they tell us how to set the V-core. It's at 2.2 volts on the CPU. And the ratio. We want the ratio of 3.0, which means that the jumper 5 needs to be set at, there are 3 jumpers, A, B and C, 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2. So 2 times the first position and the middle 1, 2, 2, 3. As already found out, on the board there's GP5, which means jumper 5. It's set to 1, 2, 2, 3 and 1, 2. So the CPU is already probably set to the right specs. You always have to check these when you get new boards, because sometimes sellers or vendors just put a CPU that fits into the slot. They fit it in, they put a heatsink on it, and yeah, you're screwed if you just turn the machine on. Jumper 6 has 4 positions. We have to find out where it is. It's down here. These jumpers are on-off jumpers, so either you put a jumper in a position or you leave it off. You can also just park the jumper. Only jumper B is set, so that means on the top chart, jumper B on only, all the others off, means 2.2 volt. So we are good to go. If you want to make sure that this will turn on, I suggest you only use one RAM slot with only one RAM stick that you know that will work. We need a RAM bank that, or a RAM stick that needs 100 that can run at 100 megahertz or more. So it's a PC100 or PC133. To make sure, we will see what we have got in the bags with us. Yep, you remember this bag. I like this one. What does it say? 64 max, SD RAM 100. Someone put a 100 behind. I guess they came from this board, so we can just put it in. The top DIMM slot, it's written on the board, is DIMM 1. Usually the board doesn't care where you put the RAM, but for convenience it's better to put it in the first slot. This one is a bit tricky to put in. Always close and make sure that the RAM sits horizontally with the board. What else do we need? We need a graphics card. I'd suggest using a PCI card because early AGPs do not support all the graphics cards, and you can damage your graphics card if you use a too modern graphics card. The GeForce 6 I had lying around there, I will not test it in this board. It's way too modern. But I got the S33064. It's made by Speyer. This one is Speyer Mirage P64. It's an S3 card, and you can remember that all the S3 cards are excellent cards for this. I don't know if the AGP and the first PCI slots are shared on these boards. It might be, but it doesn't matter, as we just want to test this board. Okay, big problem. What do we have these for? To build a case. Yeah, more or less stable. So let's install the rest. As said, there's no PS2 port, so we need an adapter. There we go. PS2 to AT. I got an old ATX board here, so we can use the ATX power connector. Okie dokie. Keyboard connected, power, RAM, graphics card, CPU. I guess we can start this. As we now have an ATX PSU, we need a power button. I have none, and we have to figure out which one of these jumpers powers the board on. Usually the AT power supplies have a real button that stays in and gives current all the time. What I will first install is a small PC speaker. If there are any error codes, this one will beep. There we go. Small power button, self-made. I think it's those. Let's try out. And here we go. It runs. And we got an image. Yeah. 64 megs of RAM. Yes, you must check some error. The battery must be dead. The CPU is correctly configured. 300 MHz. Nice. We can notice the BIOS string on the button to find out what mainboard it exactly is. As you can see, the BIOS is black and white. There must be some problem with the graphics card. I will test another one, but I've seen this before and it was solved, but I don't know how I solved this. Maybe there's a BIOS option, but I don't think. Overclocking is possible too. I just set the multiplier to 4 times and it booted. 400 MHz, nice. Let's see if it's stable. So this was a video about how to identify a newly obtained mainboard with attached CPU, CPU cooler, etc. That was previously probably unidentified. A video about how to check if all the settings are correct on the CPU. And what I just wanted to say that the overclocking at 400 MHz wasn't stable. Even in DOS it crashed, it hang. So I went back to 300 and overclocked to 350. 350 is rock stable, as we say, and you can so gain at least 50 MHz, which is okay for that time. Stay tuned for the next video, which will come out whenever it's done, because I don't post regularly. I post videos when I have finished doing the videos and all the editing and stuff. So thanks for watching and goodbye.